Whether it's by choice or WWE just can't see what's happening, there are a lot of wrestlers who manage to get over with the fan base when all of a sudden this popularity is killed dead. Be that because of bizarre booking or those in charge just not seeing what they've got, it can be criminal for fans as an organic rise is destroyed before our very eyes. It's like watching a puppy get put to sleep. Notable performers this year would be the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka, plus it's hard to say much for Sanity. Forget 60 days, they barely got a week. Go and explain that one. You know what we do when things like this happen though? We get a bunch of names and we list the hoopla out of them. I'm Simon from WhatCulture and this is 9 times WWE killed a popular superstar in less than 60 days. Number 9, AOP. The Authors of Pain worked in NXT, don't ask me how or why. Sometimes people just fit, and this was the case with Akam Razor and Paul Ellering. Nothing held them back, not even their weird name, as they laid waste to most of their opponents in convincing fashion. They were greater than the sum of their parts, as many tag teams are. On paper, a move to the main roster seemed easy too. They were tailor-made for someone like Vince McMahon, even if they weren't single competitors. It started alright as well, as they ate Heath Slater and Rhino alive, but then we smashed into a wall when Ellering was dumped for no reason. Even rumours that it was due to the veteran manager not wanting to travel were refuted by the man himself, so forget that. They took away a major element that made AOP work, and within weeks they were buried. Sometimes they weren't even on TV, and while the arrival of Drake Maverick wasn't too bad, their tag team title win was greeted by an angle where their manager pissed his pants. Can someone tell me why these brutes would listen to this guy? I don't know, but I do know that ever since, AOP have lost all their momentum. Also gives me the fear that the reason WWE shortened Authors of Pain to AOP is just so they could make urine jokes. Because you know, AOP. Jeez. Number 8, Zack Ryder. This one is still baffling. It's almost as if WWE was livid that Zack Ryder had managed to get himself over, even though he had reached for the brass ring and found a way to grab it. Ryder had done everything he was asked, aside from a good entrance theme, because that radio nonsense still sucks. That wasn't good enough. The cheers from the crowd got too much eventually for management to just ignore, so they took Zack and his revolution and whipped his ass, story-wise. He did win the US title in 2011, but what followed was a bizarre angle with Eve, Kane and John Cena, where Ryder was treated like an actual piece of trash. The Big Red Machine and Cena basically fought over Ryder as he played third wheel, and at one point Kane threw him off the stage as he sat in a wheelchair because again, he was so rubbish, he couldn't help but get injured. Zack was even doing good merchandise numbers around this time, but within 2 months, that was all done and dusted. You know the rest. Number 7, Emma. Emma is a good wrestler. Let's not forget that, and she was a key face when the women's division was transforming down in NXT. Her matches with Paige showed how far behind the times WWE were when it came to females, and in another timeline, she could have easily been part of the 4 Horsewomen. She had what it took. Instead, Emma headed to the main roster and was put in a comedy skit with Santina Marella. Now don't get me wrong, anything and everything with Santino was brilliant, but given that the majority of the Raw audience had no idea who she was, this weird dancing gimmick was the kiss of death. It had no shelf life, especially as she was never allowed to wrestle to counteract it. WWE completely blurred the lines too, because Emma the Valet was costing Marella matches at the same time she was fighting for the NXT Women's title on pay-per-views. How does that not confuse the issue? It didn't work and she quickly vanished, which is what happened again with that whole Emelina stuff a few years later. Not hard to figure out why this didn't go as planned. Number 6, Roman Reigns. A whole different case today as we know what Roman Reigns is dealing with, which for the record is the only thing that matters, and all the best to the real-life Joanna Hawaii, but he absolutely fits into this idea of wrestlers who had their power stripped away in days. We all forget today, but when in the Shield or scrapping at the 2014 Royal Rumble, people loved Reigns. They screamed for him as if he was the answer to all our problems. He also improved like thunder, which is more credit to the man. You could argue he was number 3 compared to Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, but Reigns continually upped his game and had the look WWE loved to boot. Regardless what the narrative is these days, he did put in the time and he did put in the work, which is given to him too quickly. On top of that, he was made to say really silly things, and before long fans could see through what was happening and the bottom fell out. Obviously everything going on with Daniel Bryan didn't help, and in hindsight, the decision to back out of the planned WrestleMania 31 finish may not have been the best either. The Rollins surprise rocked, but Roman was left with all the fallout. If he is able to return in the future, and let's keep everything crossed that he is, it should be a completely different situation, and that's even without his personal struggles. Roman has earned a run as a proper babyface on his own terms. Number 5, The Ascension. AOP, Sanity, The Ascension, it's the same story for all of them really, and I just don't get it. Even if Vince McMahon doesn't like tag team wrestling, it still makes no sense to treat any talent as these three have been, the latter especially. Down in NXT, Connor and Victor were tag champs for almost a year, complete with a pretty cool entrance and a moveset that made them more than believable. They were protected, sure, but that just worked. It's what they needed, so they got it. It's a concept more performers could benefit from. When they were called up, however, the first gimmick idea was to take the mick out of them for being a Legion of Doom ripoff and ensure they lost as much as possible. Not really Goldberg now, is it? The anti-Goldberg. The real confusing part is that this is a tag division that needs bodies. It took less than 60 days to push them away from being involved in any upward trend, and now we see them fleetingly. You tell me, because I don't know. Number 4, Dean Ambrose. This seems to have happened twice now and really does underline how WWE sees Dean Ambrose. Ever since he was in that Terminator advert, I thought the lunatic had something special that could be tapped into, but he's never been given that chance. Be it his most recent return, which is now revolving around the fact he's worried about getting germs from the fans, which is terrible by the way, or when the Shield split up, Dean always seems to be the fall guy. That's mad. Instead of being groomed for the main event like his brothers, Ambrose was just a wild and crazy dude who sometimes won and sometimes lost. It almost didn't matter because his booking felt erratic, which was ironic. When the feuds mattered too, he would always find himself getting pinned even if the fans were screaming otherwise. He had a huge boost after winning the WWE title in 2016, but the company never really backed him like a champion. It always seemed as if Ambrose was there to pass the belt to someone else, and that sucks. The fact it has kind of happened for a second time in 2018 is just ridiculous. People like Dean Ambrose. Let him fly. Number 3, Bad News Barrett. Wade Barrett's WWE run is illogical. A man that did all that was required and got over in spite of everything, he kept being booked as if he was a loser even though he wasn't. Winning the King of the Ring in 2015 was the beginning of the end for Barrett because much like other winners, he was forced to walk around with a robe and crown. And sure, that's worked here and there, but Wade wasn't allowed to ham it up to that degree, so was just a dude walking around in cosplay. Calling himself King Barrett didn't help either because of how synonymous it was with the five-time WCW champion, and it just felt like one massive practical joke, especially because he never won. How can you call yourself royalty and then continually lose? The most nuts thing was that all of this happened as Barrett had finally gotten over. The bad news gimmick had caught fire and he was clearly having the time of his life with it. Apparently that wasn't the plan though, so the office derailed it and took us in this direction instead. He was soon in the League of Nations, which was awful, before he left the WWE in 2016. Can't blame him, really. Number 2, Bray Wyatt. The Bray Wyatt gimmick worked because Wyndham Rotunda dedicated himself to it with everything in his being. He was believable on the microphone, and the two monsters that stood by his side ensured everything he was doing was as eerie as it was intimidating. Problem was, he did it too well. I realise that sounds dumb, but Wyatt was so skilled at all this, management decided they could treat him however they wanted and he'd be fine. The Wyatt family was split up, Bray went on to appear in loads of high-profile feuds and yet never came out on top, and being mauled by The Undertaker at WrestleMania was just a way to let everyone know that the Eater of Worlds wasn't in the same league. This got worse when his promos descended into gibberish. You had to go through them with a fine-tooth comb to even understand what he was saying, and his world title win actually hurt him even more, which is where this 60 days comes into play, and comes into play hard. That match with Randy Orton at Mania 33 was up there with one of the worst of the year, and Wyatt had lost the championship almost as soon as he wrapped it around his waist. The pairing with Matt Hardy was never really given a chance to shine, and now he's vanished from television. Number 1, Cesaro. Today, Cesaro is doing alright. Some people would like more from him, others think he's found his place, but what we all agree on is that he's doing much better now than he was in 2014. It's all just so strange. For example, as soon as the Swiss Superman got the giant swing over, he was told to stop using it. Right. Although his entrance theme was pretty decent, WWE changed that to give him a joke song that was also irritating as hell. Those ambulance sirens. No one mucked around with Austin's glass breaking or replaced it with, I don't know, a duck quacking. Sometimes it's alright to leave things alone. There was also that interview with Vince McMahon where Cesaro was specifically singled out for not grabbing the brass ring, and you'd have to imagine any hopes of him being a main eventer have come and gone. At least the bar is alright though. I'll take it. Know of any other times WWE killed a popular superstar in less than 60 days? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then you head over to WhatCulture.com when you read yourself some articles, and follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and I will speak to you again soon.
Violent energy. Clear with the elbow.